Welcome to the Resist Average Academy, your source for inspiring stories, lessons, and action steps designed to level up every area of your life. Here's your host, Tommy Baker.
Resist Average Nation, welcome back to another full-length episode. You are going to love today's session. Get ready, get your notebook out. Remember, you're here to train, to learn, and grow. Make sure you treat it as such. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, how are you doing? How is your clarity? How is your momentum? If you're not where you want to be, or if you're experiencing some emotional issues or you're feeling stuck, that's okay. That's part of the human experience. That's part of the entrepreneurial experience. That's part of crafting a life that you want, but staying there is a choice. So if you need help getting clarity, I created the Make 2020 Everything Changed Masterclass. Now, I released this in January, but a lot of people have been tapping into this during this season of challenge, during the season of pause, as we get out of this, as we grow from this, to really get clear on priorities, to release overwhelm. And it's a high definition audio, and it's a high definition video, and a workbook. When clients come to Scottsdale, they pay me for the same seminar $3,000, and I compress it all into a 42-minute high definition video course style for free, just for you. You listen to the Academy, it's for you. You can go to resistaverageacademy.com/masterclass, resistaverageacademy.com/masterclass, set the intention, grab a notebook, print out the workbook if you have a printer. If not, just do it online. Sit down. When I do my training, I set a whole intention. I light a candle, I put on relaxing music, I get focused, because training leads to results, but randomness leads to overwhelm and confusion. So before I introduce my next guest, I did want to let you know that the Academy is sponsored with one of the best companies in the game for physical, mental, emotional recovery and performance. They are called NED. They produce the highest quality, full spectrum CBD extracted from organically grown hemp plants. And guys, I have been blown away. I used to be so skeptical of CBD because it's everywhere, because CVS have it, because Walmart has it, all these places have it, and very dubious of the quality. But everything has changed since I started using NED. I'm more relaxed. My sleep is incredible. I'm always on the trail every single day. If you watch my Instagram, I'm recovering better than ever. And they partnered with the Academy to give you 15% off your order. You can go to www.helloned/resist to check out NED, try their CBD for yourself, and enter the code RESIST at checkout for 15% off plus free shipping. That's HELLONED.com/resist to get 15% off your first order, free shipping. NED is an absolute game changer. Okay, Academy Nation, my next guest, his name is Yanik Silver. He is one of the legends of the direct response marketing, internet marketing world. When I opened my first fitness business, there's 3 legends in the space that I was learning from. 1 was Frank Kern, 2 was Yanik Silver, 3 was Jeff Walker. No order on that. They were just these massive names. And what a pleasure 10 years later to have Yanik on the show. He's been called a cosmic catalyst, a Maverick Mischief-maker, and a Galactic Goofball. I love how much fun he has. He is the creator of the Cosmic Journal, author of Evolved Enterprise, the founder of Maverick 1000, which is a global network of top entrepreneurs and visionary creatives. He is someone who has hung out with people like Sir Richard Branson, Sarah Blakely, Tony Hawk, and so many other incredible people. You're going to love this conversation. The full video is on YouTube. We did a screen share. And the way that Yanik blends the worlds of ambition and drive and intensity with consciousness and spirituality and space is bound to leave you clear, grounded, energized, and passionate. So Academy Nation, let's take some notes. Get those journals out. Welcome to Yanik Silver to the show. Resist Average Nation, welcome back to another full-length episode. As I said in the intro, very excited for today's guest. When I started my business, my first business, about 8 years ago, he was one of the pioneers of the business and entrepreneurship, internet marketing space. And now to tap into his message, which to me has come full circle. Welcome to the Academy, Yanik Silver.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So let's dive in. How are you defining success today, and what do you do to kind of check in with yourself with that definition?
Yeah, wow, that's a good one right off the bat. Success. So I learned really early on, one of my mentors in audio was Earl Nightingale, right? Way back, I like the foundational people. And this is like when I was about 17, driving around my car with like a bunch of tapes in there. And all my friends are like, what the hell are these tapes? And I'm like, don't worry, you won't like them. But Earl Nightingale will talk about like the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. And for me, success has really become much more about intentionality. And I even love the way that, you before we even hit record, you're like, this is my intention for what we want to do here. So intention really, really defines and sets the direction for where I'm going. And that's what I check in with. And it's it's a simple, but yet elusive process of what I call connecting your head, which is a lot of times your business sense, the marketing side, your heart, which is the impact that you want to make in the world, and then your higher purpose. And you connect all of it together. So your higher purpose is like truly like, what are you, why are you here? Like why were you, as I say, planeted on this place here? And what does that look like? And it's, and it could be a simple question, but it opens up a lot of, a lot of reflection. And that's what I feel like I've been doing for maybe 20 some years, is finding that true alignment and connection with my head, my heart, and my higher purpose.
It's powerful, man. And like sometimes the simplest questions are the hardest to dive into because there's so much underneath the surface. Let's take it back. You come from, Russian immigrants. You came here when you were 3. Yep. You're listening to self-help when you're 17. How did you, when was that first moment of kind of self-reliance, ownership, that kind of like American achievement energy coming from immigrant parents that came from your own doing? Like, when did you have that spark of business, entrepreneurship, do it yourself? I'm not going to work for somebody else. I'm going to create something on my own.
Yeah, I think it's been an evolution. It really started for sure with my dad, my parents coming over, that very typical immigrant success story. We had $256 for me, my mom, and my grandmother came over, and then my dad pretty quickly. Actually, he was about to get fired at the hospital center he was working at because he was moonlighting on the side. So the administrator basically gave him a choice, and he picked the path that many of us have picked or are kind of contemplating picking and are on that verge of doing, and that's that entrepreneurial path. And so I got to see it, obviously growing up in it. Because in a family business, you grow up, you do everything in there. I went from like having patches in my pants to having pretty nice Caribbean vacations and being a part of that success story with my father. So I got to see that part. But then when it really crystallized for me personally, so I always thought I was going to take over my dad's business. It was medical equipment sales and service. I got started super early, like 14. I was telemarketing, calling on my own leads. And 16, the deal was, my dad's like, yeah, Mr. Yanik, go make some sales. So I got a car, but I had to go cold call on doctors. And so I got a really early start in that sales and marketing phase, but it just sucked because you're cold calling on 50, 60-year-old doctors and, this 16, 17-year-old kid, like, who the hell is going to listen to you? And one of my doctor clients who I sold an entire surgery center actually gave me a Jay Abraham tape. And it really just turned the lights for me on about direct response marketing and copywriting and using words to sell or get people to raise their hands and be interested. And from there, that was like sort of the first spark that I could see, okay, I learned this leverageable skill. I applied in my dad's business, really helped grow them from a regional player to a national player. And then I started applying it to like other doctors who were like asking me about marketing stuff and helping them. And so the very first thing I did was did a little bit of consulting, trading time for money. But then I'm like, well, that doesn't have much leverage. So I actually created a kit to help other doctors get more cash paying patients. And so that was the very first time that like something like actually clicked, where it's like something I created started from nothing and then had somebody give me money. And there's energy to that when that happens. And it was interesting. I was thinking about the story the other day. Someone asked me about it, and I hadn't thought about it in a while. And what I did was like I ran a little ad in a dermatologic surgery news, which I'm sure many people have on their, in their living room right now. And I had like 10 doctors raise their hands and say yes. And literally on the last day of the deadline, on this third notice, through the fax machine, came this order for a $900 order. And that was what kind of gave me my energy to go create this thing. And I literally told the doctor it's going to be republished. It's going to be available in 30 days. I'm not charging your card until then. And then I got to work creating that thing, which then gave me the freedom to jump into my own thing instead of just being in my dad's business.
Love that, man. And it's like, it's that first moment of possibility is so powerful. I mean, I know for all of us, we can go back to that moment when it clicked for the first time. Yeah. And we said we crossed the threshold from concept and idea to results, and the result makes it so much more real in terms of our possibility.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like one thing to read about people or hear about these stories or listen to podcasts about these stories, but and there has to be a moment where it goes from, okay, I could do this, maybe I can do this, to wow, somebody just paid me to do something that, that was conceptual. And that's happened all along the way, right? So I remember the very first thing that I got started in the online digital marketing space was I literally woke up at 3:00 in the morning. I had this idea. I love questions. We started earlier, this recording talking about questions. And so my question was, how do I create a fully automatic business that makes me money while I sleep, is an incredible value to people? And I literally woke up at 3:00 in the morning with this idea for something called instant sales letters. And that, I did what most people might not do, is I jumped out of bed at 3:00 in the morning, actually registered a domain name, got to work on it. So I had already a bunch of sort of sales letters. I've been working with other clients in other industries, obviously my dad's business, but then I had been working with like auto garage mechanics and then restaurants and other doctors. And I'm like, okay, let's create this like on a silver platter, these fill in the blank sales letters. And I had no technical skills, that might stop somebody. And I'm like, well, someone else can do that. And I know this one piece, and I know I can leverage it online, and literally got going and put it up for sale and had no credit card attached to it. So like the form would come to me. And then I just remember waking up one morning as like a 1995 order or $29.95. And I'm like, holy shit, someone just bought this thing, and it was really, really incredible, and it made it real. So it's like putting stuff out there even before you're totally ready is huge. And then also putting a stake in the ground is really big. And that's another way I've started things.
A lot in there. So, but I love the one about you woke up at 3 and you took instant action. You didn't sleep in. You didn't analyze which domains may work, which not. You didn't wait 2 weeks to think about something. You actually, you got the clarity, and then you went right towards it. And I think a lot of momentum is lost, because I don't believe anyone lacks clarity, and it comes from different places. It comes from insights that you might listen on a podcast. It might come from an insight on a meditation or using your journal. But once we have that clarity, it's like, what do we do with that clarity? And that gap between clarity and implementation, the longer it goes, the more fear tends to come in, the more comparison, overwhelm, et cetera, et cetera. So let's pull on that, the power of clarity and then intentional action on the back end of clarity.
So let me talk about that for a second, because I don't think you ever have perfect clarity. I think you're the closer you get with your intention of connecting your head, heart, higher purpose, that brings you the vision, your clarity. But most people they want to go from A to Z and know every single step that's going to take them from A to Z. And that's where so many of us get held up, because the way actually opens up as you follow, this path. It's like, imagine if you have like a light and you're in a dark sort of labyrinth, and you don't you're like, oh, I need to get to whatever, like this pot of gold that you sort of envisioned for yourself. And the pot of gold is through a lot of twists and turns. And you're like, okay, well, if I knew every single twist and turn, I could get there. But that's not the way it works. It's like, actually life opens up to embrace you. And I love this idea. I have have this note that's actually from my journal
Ooh, love that.
my partner in Maverick actually created without me knowing and gave it away as a gift to people for the first time on Necker Island, because I had created a sunrise on Necker. And so I'll read it real fast, because I think there's something here which says trust. Trust the universe has even more in store for you than you can imagine. Trust the divine timing. Trust your crazy ideas. Trust your wings will grow when you leap. Trust your nature. Trust you've been encoded with a cosmic alarm clock. Trust the signs, symbols, and synchronicities sent to you. Trust the co-conspirators catalyzing your conscious evolution. Trust the perfect unfolding of your understanding, and trust your divine connections. So this idea of trusting, like it really is a dance with the universe, and that might sound really fluffy. And I used to talk about some things like that, and I would always be like, it's a little fluffy. But now I really fully embrace it, because there's a reason that you've been handed your dream, whatever that is. And if it's like a hope, if it's a wish, then that's not it. If it's like this deep, soulful dream that that's again with intention, and you talked about clarity. You have to take some action towards it, and it feels really scary. Like, usually following your heart is really scary. We can maybe get into some stuff, because I've gone from super successful to falling down and going sideways in different places, and that's been following my heart. And it's a powerful thing to continue leaning into, because there really is, everyone's heard the net will leap and the net will appear. But what happens is that there's these hidden allies and hidden resources, and all these guides show up in the right way, and books show up. So I believe your life changes through the books that you read, the people that you meet, and the experiences that you have. And those only show up when you're moving towards something. And you have to move that first, again, back to our dark labyrinth, you have to move that first 50 feet that your torch can see in order to see the next 50 feet. And a lot of times where you thought you were going is going to be a much more beautiful byproduct that occurs from moving forward. And that's what happened in so many different times in my life and my business.
There's so much in there, man. But I love that. And the kind of metaphor, the visual that I use is that on self-trust, right? When we have that initial little bit of clarity, and I completely agree. I actually call it the myth of clarity, the myth that we have to have all of this clarity. It keeps us stuck today. But it's almost like taking that first courageous action. The small courageous action, the ingredient of courage is the same for the small, medium, and large action. It's the same exact thing. And when we start moving towards, especially what you talked about, that soulful, that calling, that thing that we can't not do, doors start to open that before we stepped into that, we couldn't see them. They were invisible. But as we start to step into them, even if we fail on the first iteration, we recognize that now there's 3 doors open where before there was 0, and we go through one door, and that's what I believe is the evolution that you're talking about. That having that self-trust, having that courage, and then being open. That's why, and I assume you believe this too, is like, to me, business and entrepreneurship is really a spiritual quest as well, because it's the dichotomy of action and like surrender, of intention and letting go, of having a vision and being obsessed with it, but at the same time being open to a version of that vision that we can't imagine right now because we're over here on the mountaintop. Does that resonate?
Imagine, yeah. And even allowing that to go. And you said a couple of really great things I'm going to hone in on. One is courage. So the root word of courage is cur, which means heart. And so it really is about doing the thing that your heart is, again, following your heart is often scary, but never wrong. And I there's so many illustrations I have in this cosmic journal that, I love using it like an oracle, but there's one where, so this is the one I'm thinking of. It looks like this. I can do a screen share and probably pull it up real fast.
Awesome.
If you want me to, but it says following your heart is frequently scary, but never wrong. And it's like you're standing on this ledge and just like deciding. And then at the bottom it says 3, 2, 1, jump. And it says the universe conspires with you to support you once you finally jump. And it's only in times when you step to the edge and hesitate is there confusion. Your heart leads you to the path less taken, the path of trusting your inner guidance to nudge you to keep showing up in full service. For some reason, each time we follow heart, it seems scary until you realize you're fully supported every single time. And then I wrote, I thought about like every single time that I've done that, I've never been not supported, right? Like, but it feels scarier. So this continues showing up, and I don't know if this happened to you too. Tell me, like, but a lot of people think, once you're successful, quote unquote, then everything's easy, and it's not. Like, I've been really blessed to hang out with some really interesting people at the top levels of business, and they continue leaning into it. Like one of my mentors, this guy named Frank McKinney. He builds houses on spec for 10 million, 15 million. 20 million, right? So these are not small houses. And he talks about exercising your wrist muscle, and it takes a lot of courage to do what he does, but he believes in that vision. And he also tells me all the time, it's like, you only need one, and you need one buyer. And so, but he puts his full heart and soul into it. And that's the other thing with as you said, that entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. There's a great book called The Great Work of Your Life. And it takes apart the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of our oldest spiritual texts.
It's one of my favorites. How do I not know about this book?
Oh, yeah. Well, you need
I know what I'll be ordering in a few minutes after this conversation.
It's written by a yogi, this guy named Stephen Cope. And so he looked at all these people's lives, like Susan B. Anthony or Harriet Tubman or Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, some people that we've looked at throughout history as we looked up to. But how, when they've lived into the principles of the Gita, that their lives truly, just exploded because they had full alignment. And it also looks at, quote unquote, regular people stepping into it. But one of the big principles that I took away from it was this idea that your work is the reward. So if you put your heart and soul into something, that's the reward in and of itself. So many times we're obsessed with what is the outcome, and we're attached to the outcome. And I know that's really hard. And it's something that if I would have said this to myself 15 years ago, I might not have really paid attention to it, but it's really, really powerful when you put your full heart and soul into it, because that's the reward. And even if you fail, quote unquote, so words to me are incredibly important, right?
Yeah,
so
me too.
As a copywriter, I started off with that, because words truly, like, your words create your world. Like, so the words that we use, and if we say, oh, well, we failed, that's different than, I grew, or I learned, or I did whatever. But I also love this one question, which is, what would I do even if I knew it would fail? And that's from Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And so when I was on this next path of what I was doing, that was the question that I used when things were kind of going sideways, is because it's like, what would you put your life's energy into, even if it would, quote unquote, fail? And that's a powerful question, because if you're gonna quote unquote go down, and I don't know when this will air, but right now we're in this period of uncertainty. This, people are calling it this great pause or pandemic pause or whatever. I like this purposeful pause, or great pause is fine too. But it's like, it's time to restock and take like a sacred pause, especially in yoga, is a moment to recenter yourself with your intention and what you set out to do. And so this is a moment that you can kind of just recenter yourself about, okay, what am I doing here? And I'm doing it. I know a lot of high level entrepreneurs that we work with, like, they're doing it. It's like a really great time to just say, okay, what would I do even if I knew it would fail? And use questions like that.
Oh, beautiful, man. So much in there. I got a whole page of notes just from that. I just want to touch on, you mentioned that this risk muscle, that this kind of leaning into your heart muscle, how it never ends. And to me, I'm actually much more impressed by the people who are higher on the mountaintop, who now have a lot to lose. It's the artist who has sold 10 million copies and goes out and does a record that they want to make, not the one that the record company wants them to make. Yes. And they might fall on their face commercially, but deep down, it's what they wanted to do. So that to me takes so much. I mean, everything takes courage, but when if you have literally nothing to lose and you're putting yourself out there, that's awesome.
Yes.
But success can kind of trap you into doing things a certain way, and then actually robbing you of that spontaneous spirit and keeping you in this box of expectation.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I was actually getting some goosebumps as you're talking about that because, again, it's like people feel like, well, once you accomplish something, you're done, whatever. But so I think about this in stages. And so stage one is we jump out of the airplane. We're building our parachute on the way out. We have our idea, the 3 o'clock in the morning thing like I was doing. And it's like you're building the parachute on the way down. You're like, I have an idea. I think it could work, might not work. I don't know. And then stage two is like, oh, yeah, it's working. Like you're moving up and you're receiving accolades. You're getting press. You're getting, the profits are coming in. And then at some point, you plateau, and usually it's your passion around it in some way, shape, or form. Like you're just not. It's not the same anymore. And so that at that point, it's either you continue kind of. I call this a cosmic alarm clock moment, where this little whisper is in your ear, which is like, maybe there's a bigger potential for you. Are you really living up to your potential? Is this the biggest thing that you could be doing that you're truly meant for? And then you can either hit snooze or you can wake up to it. And if you hit snooze, I think you kind of die a little bit inside. I think you mentioned golden handcuffs, and that's that idea of like, okay, I can play the same safe route. I can do the same things, but you're not growing. You're not exploring. And the people that I look up to have continued to reinvent themselves or just step into, like you're saying, the musician that has sold a gazillion albums. And it's like, no, this is what I'm moving into right now, regardless of if it fails or not. Like a mentor of mine, we're having a conversation the other day about David Bowie. He was a perfect example of that. And actually I have a picture of him up on one of my shelves here that, I just love because he represents that for me of just really stepping into this continual reinvention and not being afraid to keep following what he had felt as calling. And so that's, to me, the stage four. And it takes a leap. Like what got you to where you are for that level is not going to be what's going to get you to this next level of connecting your head, heart, higher purpose. It's like almost like an evolutionary spiral, and you have to give up something, an identity piece, something that you've outgrown, could be a particular part of your business, whatever it is, in order to move up onto this next evolutionary ascending spiral.
Oh, I love that, man. So powerful. And let's dive into that cosmic alarm clock, because as you noted, collectively, this is a cosmic alarm clock moment. A lot of our realities have been shifted, interrupted on a small scale, on a large scale, and everywhere in between. So what are some, when we hear the cosmic alarm clock, like you said, the ego, it's very easy to talk ourselves out of even looking into the alarm clock, creating some space, asking some questions without answers. How do we open up that space? And especially during this time, because like you said, we can, for all of us right now, if we use this wisely, to me, the thing I'm thinking about is what is, going back to what you said of letting go, identity, ego, what are the things that I'm doing that are for approval that don't no longer feel right? What are the things that I'm doing that used to light me up 3 years ago, but now I'm just going through the motions, and the ego within that gets uncomfortable because it's part of the identity. So what are some ways, or what are some things, some ways of thinking about it that somebody listening who's also going through the cosmic alarm clock, collectively and individually can use during this time that's going to really help shift their trajectory? So
my process for this is journaling. I love, I think it's one of the real foundational success principles that I've used and that I continue sharing and talking about. And there's a lot of ways of journaling, but even if, regardless of the way that you do it, it has tremendous benefit. It's been scientifically proven to make you happier because it takes all this stuff that is floating around in our heads, especially as entrepreneurs, as people that are wanting to do big things in the world. And a lot of times they're the same thoughts and patterns and things like that. But by putting a beginning, middle, and end on a page, it's going to help you process it and allow it to move through. And then you're also going to start seeing themes, and you're going to start seeing things develop. And so, even as simple as an experiment, I love experiments too. So I'll do these 33-day experiments where it could be like, so, for instance, journaling. Maybe you've thought about journaling. Maybe you want to get back into it. Maybe you haven't done it. You're like, oh, that sounds good, but I have no idea what to journal on. You try an experiment. It could be 14 days, 21 days. I like 33, so it's a good enough time period that you can really evaluate how does it help you or not. And then, but there's also an end period, right, to an experiment. And so if you give yourself a window, about 15 minutes is all you really need. And I do mine before bed. I'll typically process my day and just start writing and start processing. And then also use questions. Like I love, again, your questions dictate your answer. So I'll use questions like, what would I do even if I would fail? And what would my 111-year-old self tell me? Who else has more to gain than I do by this succeeding? And you start using questions like that. And then I also start doing some interesting things, like I'll use my non-dominant hand to answer once I've answered with my right hand. So I'll use my left hand because it connects to a whole different part of your brain. And I learned this from a friend of mine, this guy named Bill Donius, wrote a book called Thought Revolution, and he got it from this child psychologist named Lucia Capuchiano. I think that's the way she says it, but it's like this way of engaging in a whole other way. And so I've used that with my cosmic journal in a deep, deep way of like really connecting to like what is my, and again, connecting your head, heart, higher purpose, but hearing that cosmic alarm clock. So the first time that I really, really felt it in a deep way was about 12 years ago. Everything, from outside looking in was great. Making a lot of money in the digital marketing space, helping a lot of people, had a great reputation, which isn't that easy in that space. Great family, driving a hot sports car, kind of all the things that you would see on the infomercial or whatever. Not that I was running infomercials, but that same kind of thing. Started from a one bedroom, built a multi-million-dollar company, running it from your laptop. But there's that cosmic alarm clock moment, and where that little nudge of like, okay, well, is there something bigger that you're really meant to be doing? And usually it starts with maybe a little bit of depression or frustration or a little bit of like just, not being happy. And so that was the question I asked was, am I happy? Would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And it's a simple question. But when I was honest, the answer was no. And so that forced me to, again, in my journal, be like, okay, well, what would make me happy? And what I thought would make me happy was this combination. I had originally come up with like these three interconnected circles of like a dollar sign, a heart, and a happy face. And that was what I had called the Maverick Entrepreneur. And we were going to do these Maverick business adventure retreats. So the very first one, so again, I mentioned I like sticking a stake in the ground. So I stuck the stake in the ground, which was we're going to go on a Baja Dune Buggy adventure. I have no idea how we're going to make this thing work. It was totally different than my publishing company. But, I wanted to bring together awesome entrepreneurs. We'd have business sessions in the middle of nowhere, and we had like charity component to it. And so it pulled off. It went great. Had 26 people there. And now, like 12 years later, actually, some of them are still members. So, it's been a really interesting seed that was planted. Jesse James, the motorcycle mogul, came as a celebrity guest, and it was an incredible adventure. I love Baja Dune Buggy racing. We lost about $40,000 on that first trip. And I'm like, it's an investment, it's a new business. And then about $400,000 in, there's another cosmic alarm clock, or I call it like a bonk on the head, and the universe continues bonking you on the head harder and harder until you're. So this is what happens. Like we're either forced into growth by, like right now, this is a lot of times people are being forced into growth. And it's great if you actually embrace it and lean into it. And I know it's hard. Like some people are thinking about, where am I going to get my next paycheck, or where am I going to, there's a lot of things that are coming up right now. There are a lot of fears that we have to really, truly embrace and look at. And if you put a pin in that for 1 second, because I want to come back to how people could do that. If you just remind me on an exercise. But so for me, so that 400,000, my wife's like, so what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. But I could have easily been like, okay, I'm just going to go back to the internet marketing stuff because I know how to do that. But that felt like a golden handcuffs. And so that was the point when it truly was a follow your heart even more moment. But I'm like, okay, well, my why is not to build an adventure travel company. So it really forced me to reevaluate. So my vision was this adventure travel company, do all these things. And then like the why now is changing the way business is played is the greater mission. And even more so now, it's been refined into nudging the consciousness of the world by 1 degree using the leverage of business. And so, this bigger aspect of it, but none of that would have happened if I didn't go through that pain. And so for some people, my pain was that $400,000. I had lunch with one of my buddies a couple years ago, and he's like, "Oh, 400,000, mine was 4 million." And so it's everyone. It's again, like listening to the universe, and it's going to continue bonking you over the head harder and harder until you're willing to change. And we're in that moment right now again. And actually in our company, we're in that moment too, where this has actually really revealed kind of a shortcoming that we've had, which is very travel related in what we do with the Maverick Group. So that original essence has remained the same. And now the dollar sign has changed to a tree. So it represents growth, impact, and joy. So that essence has remained the exact same. That's almost like the nucleus, right? Like that's the intention. It's the, that little atom that grows into this multi-celled organism that continues to grow and blossom from there. But it takes that first little unit. And so now, like when I did all that searching, like that, what would I do even if I knew it would fail, and asking my 111-year-old self the answers, what was I looking for? What would my 111-year-old self tell me? And the answer I got using my non-dominant hand was light 1,000 suns who can each light another 1,000 suns. And that's when we changed the name to Maverick 1000 to really accurately represent that and really lean into this intention of these entrepreneurs that wanted to be suns and universe creators that could also create this ripple of impact. So, it never, I don't think it ever goes away, but you continue getting better and better at it, and then also surrendering to it and learning that you can either embrace all of this or you can, fight it, but it's gonna be harder.
Academy Nation will be right back with that amazing conversation. But during times of stress and uncertainty, we all must double down on physical, mental, emotional recovery. This is the time to go back to basics and really build those habits, build those routines to get back into optimal states, which is why I'm so excited to announce Ned, who produced the highest quality full spectrum CBD extracted from organically grown hemp plants. Now, I am super skeptical with CBD. I didn't really believe in it. I had tried some stuff. It didn't really do anything for me. And then I experienced Ned, and literally that first night I slept so deep, and just putting the dropper underneath my tongue, I felt a wave of relaxation. And I'm pretty hardwired, I'm pretty intense, but I know that I need to recover because sometimes I can't shut my mind off, and I was so relaxed. They have a full load of CBD products, hemp products that are designed to help you release anxiety, release overwhelm, recover faster, and really just live a better life, which is right now, there's nothing better to focus on. We partnered with them. I love their story. They're so passionate. They're both entrepreneurs, purpose-driven to the core, and best of all, they're obsessed with quality. If you want to check out Ned and try their CBD for yourself and experience the benefits that I just listed, there's a special offer for Academy podcast listeners. Go to helloned.com/resist or enter resist at checkout for 15% off your first order plus free shipping. That's helloned.com/resist to get 15% off your first order plus free shipping. Release anxiety, recover physically, mentally, and emotionally. Check out Ned now. So true, man. And I love what you talked about there in terms of that the moment of pain and leaning into that pain, and for you not running back into something. And by the way, for the Academy Nation, he's being incredibly humble. This guy is and is in internet marketing like a Mount Rushmore type figure in internet marketing. I know when I started, there's three household names. It was Frank Kern, it was Jeff Walker, and it was Yanik Silver. Like literally. So he's being humble, guys. But I say that to just showcase how courageous of a decision that can be when you're known for something and you have incredible skill, world-class skill at something, but you're still leaning into that courage piece. Now, you talked about that pain.
That wasn't my real mission, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's really difficult because it's close, because, I had so many people come up. They're like, oh, you changed my life. You helped me do this. And now I'm financially independent from selling guitar lessons, doing this other stuff, or teaching people how to take engines out of this one car, moving into this other car. And my mom thought I was dealing drugs in college, but I just learned how to sell information. And those are so rewarding to me. But at the same time, I'm like, no, there's something bigger, and let me explore it. And and it's they're difficult decisions. But through that process of almost, essentially losing my business, I got all these pieces that turned into what's called the evolved enterprise. And the evolved enterprise is this way of creating a greater impact through your business. And that became the book I released a couple years ago, which I truly put my heart and soul into. And it's this, that journey of and also from learning from people like at that highest level, the Frank McKinney's, the Richard Bransons of the world, the Tony Hsieh's from Zappos, and then other people that are sort of unknown, but putting these frameworks together. And that's where I think business is going right now is, again, connecting your head, heart, higher purpose, but also you evolving yourself, because as you evolve as the founder, entrepreneur, you're going to have a greater ripple of impact. And then what's the cause that you want to have an impact to, and aligning that into your business, integrating it into it, which actually is baked into your product or service, which is your creation, which builds a community of really zealots and advocates that love what you do so much, that want to push and advocate for you, which is your community. And then there's a culture aspects. And so there's an entire framework of doing that through the evolved enterprise.
It's powerful, man. And we're going to get into the journal because it's incredible. You've mentioned it a couple times, and I want to make sure that I showcase that for the Academy because it's such a powerful tool. I got 2 in the mailbox right now. But let me ask you this about divine timing, because I know right now I can think of 10 people inside of my ecosphere who had a vision to make a leap from their normal job. And literally now they've been granted that opportunity. Not by their choosing, not in their control, but it's here. And that can be painful because we're going through this collective crisis. So let's talk about divine timing. And you also talked about those painful moments. I call them just those valleys, those dark nights of the soul sometimes, that we can become very blind and the ego can become very crushed in that space. So what do you do in those valleys to keep your head and your heart, like you said, in alignment to make sure that you come out on the other side?
Yeah, so there's some daily practices, and then there's some things that are like these bigger sort of like, dynamite that you might throw into your psyche and to really, really explode it a little bit. So the daily practices are meditation. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, hey, can you meditate? I'm like, no, hell no. I have a million ideas a minute. But it's really been a game changer. It's been about 6 years that it's been a daily practice and usually a twice a day practice. And this has also become something where I'll go talk to entrepreneurs and I'll ask them, hey, how many of you meditate? And now the room is maybe, 40%, 50%, maybe even more. Circles that I run in, it's even higher. If you would have asked that many years ago, it would have been like 15%. And so that's a process of getting still. And there's so many ways of doing it. So, there's so many great apps and things like that. I like not having an app because I want to be my own technology. I want to be portable, that I can just do it without any sort of crutch. But there's so many ways of getting into it. And the way I first learned it was one of my buddies, a guy named Vishen Lakhiani, who was a Maverick member. He runs a company called Mind Valley. And so he was teaching, I was speaking on one of his stages for Awesomeness Fest. And he was teaching about meditation again. I'm like, all right, fine, I'm going to give this thing a go. And I did it while snorkeling in Maui because I could hear my breath. And something like I actually think that as you explore more and more into the spiritual journey, there's going to be things that kind of like open up for you. And I can't remember where I read this recently, and it's kind of made me laugh and smile that there'll be like this wink from the universe in a way, or like something shows up. So for me, it was like I was meditating in the ocean and then counting my breath and doing the process that Vishen was talking about, and then I was literally engulfed by like a school of silverfish. I'm like, wow, it's just like a magical moment. And then a couple of days later, I did the same process, and then there's like a sea turtle like 20 feet away from me, and I pop my head up. There's like no one around me, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I just swam with the sea turtle, and like, we're literally like face to face like this and swimming for like 10, 15 minutes. And so like these little magical moments, I think, open up as like reminders or nudges that you're on the right track. And so that mindfulness meditation practice is a big part of it. Yoga has become a big part of it. And again, these aren't the right thing for everyone. Like you can't be like, oh yeah, Yanik does this, so I should do this too. But experiment and try things. And then also, my other experiments are around sugar, no alcohol for 33 days, and seeing how you feel and how your body feels and what happens and what you want to add, what you want to take away. And so those are ways of getting more clarity and continuing to step into, your identity for yourself. And, this cosmic journal to me is definitely one of those pieces that I absolutely love, because I wrote it for myself. So, Tommy, so I had a challenge. I love experiments, and this one was a big one. I saw this thing, 100-day art challenge going around online. I'm like, wow, that's a long time. And because I travel around a lot, and I'm like, okay, well, in my journal, I process, like, do I want to do it? What would be the byproducts of it? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it and commit to it fully. That I'm going to have a page and illustrate, like, what would be my art thing? I'm like, I'd love to do a illustrated journal. And so I did 108 days, because in the wisdom traditions, there's a bigger, 108 has more meaning. And so the very first thing I did was just had a little checkbox. So I had 108 checkboxes that were empty in the start of this moleskin journal. And literally every single day for 108 days, no matter where I was, what I was doing, for 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, I would just draw this thing. And I literally created it for myself. And when I hand it to people, I call it the Galactic Instruction Manual you were missing when you were born to remember your destiny here. And then it works like an oracle too. So at some point we'll do a little page flip and do an oracle reading for you. So that's kind of the daily stuff. So the journaling, the meditation, the mindfulness, just holding intention. I think putting positive things into your environment. I very rarely watch the news. I think even during this time, I'll give myself like 20 minutes to go down the rabbit hole of whatever's going on, and then come back out of it. But, you really have to pay attention to what you're feeding yourself, what you're doing first thing in the morning, what you're doing in the evening. And, you don't have to have a perfect morning ritual or a perfect evening ritual, and you can experiment. Again, I love experiments and play around with it, but don't get so caught up in like doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, because you really are looking to make a leap right now in some way, shape, or form. And then there's the bigger, like I was saying, the throwing the dynamite into it that really explodes our world. And so I'm a big fan of different kind of ceremonies. And so I've been always infatuated and interested in indigenous wisdom and all these ancient cultures. Even as a kid, I was like into like sacred sites and all sorts of things. And then I kind of put that away for a long time. And then we've been going back to it with Maverick, especially. We've been bringing members, these high-end entrepreneurs, to interesting things like sweat lodges with this, amazing indigenous Diné grandmothers, and doing things like that, like where like you're truly tapping into this universal power, and it's so powerful. We were in the Mayan Riviera in 2012 for the Mayan calendar change, and this is another example of like stepping into your courage or following your heart. So I had been studying the Mayan calendar for a while and really leaning into this energy. And 2012 was, some people are like, oh, it's the end of the world. And some people are like, well, no, it's a new calendar. It's a new really energy and cycle that we're entering into. And so normally we do an annual summit for Maverick in the beginning of December. And I'm like, no, we have to go down there in this Mayan Riviera December 21st. And my team's like, are you crazy? That's 4 days before Christmas. Who the hell is going to go travel? And I'm like, no, we have to go. And it was amazing. My team pulled off this incredible thing where we spent the night in a Mayan village, went into this Temescal, which is like a Mayan sweat lodge, with a shaman doing all these things. And we literally came out at midnight on the solstice. Like, you talk about like synchronicities and magic and these things that open up for you. And that just showed me that this is the right path of what we're doing. So those are some of the things that open up your psyche in a big way. And then also, I do believe I'm a proponent in the right ways of plant medicines and other medicines, but that has to be done with tremendous intention. And again, there's a reason that all these different cultures had their own way of tapping into divinity. Some of it are like vision quests and fasts and trance work and dance and sweat lodges, but then also like, these ceremonies that have been around for thousands of years, like working with sacred cactuses and sacred plants and mushrooms. And there's a reason for it. And again, intentionality is the key to those containers. And I look at those as, you don't do them every weekend, but in the right way and with the right guide, those are tremendous. But it has to be calling to you in the right way too.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that's a great, kind of what I was writing down was we have our daily toolkit. Those are just the day-to-day practices that we're doing. And then I know for me, quarterly, maybe 3 times a year, I want to do something bigger outside of that realm. We live 90 minutes from Sedona, Arizona. So there's a lot of stuff over there that we can do. And then we go to, and we go to spiritual events and advisors. And that's like, maybe a 4-day thing that really opens up that next level clarity. And then that balance between the daily practice and the bigger experiences, I think that's such a great sweet spot.
And bringing back that integration is the big
integration.
Piece.
You said the right word.
And I love, that 3 times a year is approximately, what I lean into in some ways. And we created also, by creating space through our Maverick group that we have some of these. But sometimes there are things that I do just for myself, and I think you have to plan those or they won't happen. So sometimes it's like just an adventure, right? Like, I love let's say Baja Dune Buggy or skiing or whatever. And when I plan it, it happens. When I don't plan it, life gets in the way. Sure. And you do want those because those create white space for you to really get away. And for some people, it could be a meditation retreat. For some people, it could be this, ceremonial practice. For some people, it's, doing this amazing adventure or whatever it is, but really giving yourself that gift and then integrating it. Again, the journal is key, and integrating it and then finding the daily ways that you're going to sustain yourself to make sure that you're on track.
And I love that you said that word, because that's something, I actually have an whole audio about integration, because all of these states, whether it's the dune buggies, whether it's the ceremonies, they all create these peak emotional states of this level of clarity that we're just so sure, and it's incredible, and we're open and community. So in other words, it's like a high.
It is.
But if we don't come back down into the dirt, into our day-to-day, into our daily routines and integrate, we can almost become kind of addicted to this breakthrough. We see this in entrepreneurship, right? The person that goes to the mastermind over and over, but doesn't come home and shift something in their day-to-day, and then they got to go back to the event to get excited again. And at the end of the day, they find themselves stuck in the same place. And so integration, I love that you brought that up, because that's literally the practice, right? The practice of bringing it back into, I like to use like the cloud. We go to the clouds to seek that perspective, that wisdom, and then in the dirt of our lives, that's when we get messy with the soil.
Yeah. It's the intuitive, receptive, and then the active masculine. So yes. and this is not male female, but it's masculine energy and female energy that we all have within us, and it's a dance again. Like it's figuring it out. It's what I've been leaning into, and it's a phrase that I've been continuing to explore more and more what it means, and nuances of it is effortless effort, where it's like you're truly putting your full self into something, and it feels like you're delivering your gift in that way, but it feels completely joyful. And so it's coming from here, from the heavens, the cosmic download, whatever it is, and it being expressed here into the dirt, like you're saying, and it's powerful. So actually, it'd be that's what the Cosmic Journal is for. Let's do a reading. So give me pick a number between 3 and 189.
110.
All right. You want me to do a screen share of it?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up. All right. So they're all on odd pages. You want to go backwards to 109 or forwards to 111?
Let's do 109.
All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can see this.
Yes, now I can.
Okay. So this is the number 3. So it says at the third point you get elevated beyond the two polarities and back and forth, and you rise above and see the middle way. The triangle is one of the most efficient and strongest cosmic structures. Triangles are part of other larger triangles, to build more complex structures. The three primary colors create our color spectrum. 3 provides the perfect interconnectivity of the multiple trinities and combinations. The structure is used for stability and cross-definition. And then it says here, nearly all ancient cultures taught the idea of another set of vision, the third eye, to see in a different way, see through the illusions in this world. And it's interesting to me to research the biological aspect of the pineal gland and your other eyes. So this idea of the ecoverse, and we can maybe get into that a little bit, but the ecoverse could be used for other universe creators where love or cause is in the middle, and then your content, community, and co-creation. So content is the education, media, training, etc. that builds your community. And then you have the sandbox for like-minded people to come together and stand for something more in alignment with the cause and together. And then co-creation is you co-create new ideas, projects, co-op initiatives that the community can support and develop. So this idea of connect, catalyze, co-create. So this is, so it talks a little bit about Hamilton, this idea that he combined the 3 things that he loved into a unique genre. So Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is a really interesting story about how he created Hamilton. He hadn't been on a vacation in something like 6 years, and he had been handed this book on Hamilton. And so he created, it was like this cosmic alarm clock moment, and he was handed, the right book shows up at the right time, or the right people show up at the right time, and he developed things that really were a unique combination. It was like hip hop, a musical plus history. Like no one's ever really done anything like that, and it's become obviously a massive thing. And so this third way, if we go up here, so our world, like you and I were just talking about, like the polarity of masculine, feminine energy, receptive versus pushing, but there's also that, that third way. You need that elevated view in order so that you can see how it really lines up. And like we're kind of, our world is really designed in that way, and then you need that elevated view. And so this whole ecoverse is what I've been playing around with, this container of, in the middle. For me, it's you think of it as a soil. For me, it's the world, all the global impact, all the issues. On the right-hand side are seeds, and so seeds are education or content that are planted into the soil. How do we make the world this better place using the leverage of business? And then the community is what I call suns. So lighting the suns, the sun nourishes the seed, and out comes a bloom, and the blooms are the ideas that are co-created from that community. So that's the way I think of things in threes, and that's what this cosmic journal is about.
Oh, that's amazing, man. This is incredible, dude. I told you the journal's in the mailbox, but just seeing it here, super exciting. And man, Steve, thank you for taking me through that. I'm already like, insights are already popping up.
Yeah, well,
I gotta go journal.
It's hand illustrated, and then there's on the left-hand side are prompts for you to do your own things and use those as jumping off points. And I've had so far, so it works like an oracle, right? Or you can go page by page, and it has a real arc to it. And it was the most interesting project I've ever done, because there's 108 check boxes. I did it for myself. I started showing it to other people. I started using it myself as an oracle, and then my buddy's like, well, I see how you light up about this thing. I'm going to pay to actually create like a special edition of it. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. And so it forced me to create what is the order of it and create these left-hand prompt pages. And there's so much magic that happened in it. Like I finished the prompt pages at 1:11 a.m. I finished the actual order of them at 1:11 a.m. Like it wasn't that there's an alarm clock that's like, okay, you're done at 1. Like it was just truly magical all around. And then the way that I got a book deal for it, there was only one publisher I wanted to approach, which was Hay House. And my buddy, Jeff Walker, who you mentioned earlier, got me a breakfast meeting with Reed, the president, and he looked at it, and they published people like Wayne Dyer and all these amazing transformational authors. He looked at it, he's like, yeah, there's something really, really interesting here. And they fast tracked it. And so it's been really incredible and a true joy to get it out.
That's amazing, man. And Academy Nation, you have to check this out. Cosmic Journal. Ours is in the mailbox. And my commitment, I'm doing it with my fiance. We're going to do it every day, Oracle style, for the full length, which is, I guess, 108 days, correct?
Well, the editor cut a few of them out there, so I don't know how many are in there. There might be maybe 98. I don't remember how many are on this Hay House version. In the limited edition one, there's more, but I didn't put all 108 in there. A few of them didn't quite make the cut, but it was a really good also just example, not just of being in flow, but how being prolific is better than being perfect. And so the first ones were pretty good, but then as I rolled into it at like day 50 and day 60, really trusting myself, and the things that came out were just absolutely amazing, by being more prolific than being perfect.
Yeah, and it's the power of putting yourself out there and then showing up, early on, just showing up day after day, which is incredible. Man, lots we covered, lots we could have covered, but I want to thank you for your passion, your wisdom, and just the way that you're blending. To me, this world of entrepreneurship and business building is a spiritual quest. And so that dichotomy between we have to take action and then we have to step back and we have to allow, hey, we need structure to get things done, but we also need to surrender to what we can see. There's a place and time for creativity. There's constraint in creativity. If you don't show up on your kitchen counter to doodle or whenever you do it every day, whether you feel like it or not, that book doesn't come to life. And that's at the Academy where I'm trying to, hopefully with incredible conversations like the one we just had, is to give people that perspective and allow them to tap into both worlds, because I know fulfillment and achievement, this beautiful intersection, happen when we mix those two worlds. So where can people tap into the book? And then you get that
elevator view, like we talked about, that number 3.
Yes, which I have to dive into in the journal and do some meditating on today. But where can people dive in, man?
So cosmicjournal.com, you can pick up that, the journal there. There's also a limited edition that's available there in this beautiful vegan leather. I blog occasionally at yaniksilver.com, Yanik silver.com, on Instagram and Twitter. But, also Evolved Enterprise is a great book to dive into as well on the business side of things. So, those two books are I think really hit both angles of business as a spiritual vehicle, and then the Cosmic Journal really gives you this opportunity to connect in your head, your heart, your higher purpose.
Yeah, guys, there's also an incredible blog post. I don't know when you wrote this, but the 20 predictions for the transformative 2020s. I assume this happened before the corona, but a lot of stuff in there is very poignant to right now.
Yeah, that's I think that's the post that's up on my blog, and that was I've gotten a lot of comments on that, and I think we're accelerating even more. I mean, the 2020s are going to be the most transformative decade that we've seen, and there's an amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs to step into what do they truly want to do in the world.
Incredible. Almost on. Somebody out there is listening. They have the cosmic alarm clock. They know they're meant for something deeper. They're doing some of this stuff, but they're on the precipice of really taking that next step and fully committing to the heart, man. What would you say to them?
So it's just like if you're standing on, if anyone's ever done bungee jumping, you're standing on that little ledge and your heart is beating out of your chest, and the guy next to you is like, okay, I'm going to count, 3, 2, 1, jump. And then he tells you that, and then you jump, and it's exhilarating. But, you can jump. You don't have to jump like burn your ships jump. You can. Some people that works for them. Other people, it's like try something and then continue growing it. Like that's what I did with my, when I was working for my father, when I was doing a lot of stuff, I would have a way of stepping into it. But other times it's burn the ship moment, and you have to decide what really motivates you and how you best want to do it. Sometimes the burn the ship moment is forced upon you.
Yes.
So, and that's okay too. But if you look at everything, I have an entry in there about purple glasses, and literally if you look at everything with, like, people talk about rose-colored glasses, purple glasses are this cosmic destiny that literally everything is opening up for you, that it's all happening in the perfect way for you, then you can embrace that.
Beautiful, man. Last question on the Academy. Thank you for your passion and your wisdom. When you hear the phrase resist average, Yanik, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think a lot about that. To me, average is just like mediocre. Like it's not that exciting. So resisting average is just average. It's so easy to be average, but to be extraordinary simply takes really leaning into your full expression of who you are, this beautiful cosmic mosaic of all the things that you truly care about and are designed to do. And so that's what I think about resist average, right?
Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Wow, another awesome Resist Average Academy podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and it's Tommy, and I just wanted to say thank you. I know you have endless opportunities and endless choices when it comes to podcasts, and the fact that you chose the Academy tells me everything I need to know about who you are and what you're committed to creating in your life. If this resonated, I ask you take 60 to 90 seconds, go to iTunes on desktop or mobile, search the Resist Average Academy podcast, leave us a 5-star review. We are working hard to increase our exposure, and this is the #1 way that you can support the mission. So head over to iTunes now, take the 60 seconds, tag a friend when you resonate and connect with an episode. It would mean the world. I want to thank you for being on board on the Academy.